All right, and joining us now is the best golf coach in Rhode Island, as named by Golf Digest earlier this week, Drew Anderson. Drew, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here on the Golf News podcast. How you doing?
Joe, I'm doing great. Again, thank you for having me on. As we were commenting before the podcast, just really appreciate everything you've done so far in the short amount of time you've done with the website. For me, I think many others, whether it be PGA professionals or certainly people that are kind of have the golf bug. They like to know what's going on in the state around, and a lot of which is whether it's competitive golf or just maybe some highlights as far as maybe the golf world in general. It's nice to get some updates from yourself, keeping us abreast on whether it's locally or certainly worldwide on what's going on in the game of golf. So I appreciate that, and thank you for keeping me updated. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for all your support and for following along. And hopefully, like I was talking about earlier, before we went on live, quote unquote, we're just trying to continue to grow, and we have some big things planned in 2022, and some big projects that we want to do, and hopefully those will get off the ground. So we're just trying to build one day at a time here. But you're obviously having a big week. A couple of days ago, you were named by Golf Digest as the best teacher golf instructor in the state of Rhode Island. You're the only one on the list for Rhode Island. I checked some of the other New England states, and they had like a couple of guys listed, but Rhode Island, you were the only one. So that's pretty good. But talk about what that means to you, and to be named like that by a national magazine.
Yeah, it's obviously a great recognition. Obviously, what Matthew Rudy does and the rest of the Golf Digest crew, as far as the extent of what they do to search out qualified instructors, is wonderful. And I think for myself, and I think for many others that have either been either firstly nominated like myself the first time, or others who've continually been nominated before in the past, comes with a lot of responsibility. I think there's an opportunity when that magazine comes out in this monthly subscription that those people do get. The hope is that someone actually seeks out a qualified instructor and they have a positive experience with a lesson tee. And the ultimate goal for me, and I think many other PGA professionals or even non-PGA professionals that are mentioned in that magazine, is people have a positive experience, not only lesson tee, but that transcends for them on the golf course, and hopefully shooting lower scores and having more enjoyment. That's what my priority is historically with everyone that comes on the lesson tee. Either they're looking to lower their scores, trying to have more enjoyment, trying to probably achieve some sort of short or long-term goal in the game of golf for that maybe respective season or even long-term. But again, it's a great recognition, being recognized by such a big brand as Golf Digest, and hopefully we'll see a few more in the future for sure.
Maybe, and we'll have you back. And when you win more, we'll have you back on this podcast. All right.
I appreciate it.
talk about the golf instructor industry, because this kind of interested me. Like I said, you're the only person named on or listed for Rhode Island. Other states had a couple of guys listed, but you were the only one named for Rhode Island. You don't have to like name other names or whatever. But just talk about the golf instructor industry as a whole. I mean, how competitive is it? How much are you watching other guys and what other guys are doing? What other guys are launching their own, not golf instruction company, that's not the right word, but facility. How competitive is kind of that industry, generally speaking?
I think it depends where you are demographically, but I think just in general, I think a lot of the way the industry is going and what we're seeing is more of a specialized type role. Even at the club level, I think we're seeing more facilities setting aside a role for someone as a director of instruction or teaching professional. That's their main responsibility day to day at the property that they're at, whether it's public, resort, private. I think just the way the green grass facilities have grown, the responsibilities of head golf professional can certainly be stretched. There's a GM portion to that as well, potentially for a lot of head golf professionals. So having somebody dedicated on the lesson tee, providing quality instruction, and being somewhat specific or specialized in that type of role, I think it's great, first of all, because that coach can do a great job of being specific and spend quality time with that player to get them better. But I think it's something I think just in general, what we see day in, day out, everything's become much more specialized, throughout any industry. And I think that's exactly where golf is going. Either you're going to be on the admin operations management portion, or you're going to be teaching and providing that type of experience day in and day out, what I would consider like the club level. But like I said, I think it's a great way, and I think people are getting more bang for their buck by going to somebody that truly is dedicating their full day to making people hopefully better at golf, for sure.
Now you run Drew Anderson Golf, Result Driven Golf Indoor Golf Studio. You just opened that or launched that this year. Just talk about that going off kind of on your own, because you've worked at a number of clubs throughout the state and New England, for that matter. North Kingstown, Aquidneck Club, Squamish, Point Judith. Obviously, that was a few years ago, but you've worked at a number of clubs in the state. Now you're kind of launched your own thing. So just talk about how that's going and where people can find you.
Yeah, great question. I think for many PGA professionals, certainly me included, I just got started at the green grass level, where I worked at a number of the clubs you mentioned, whether it was either working as an assistant golf professional or for a few years up in Vermont, where I was a head golf professional. Fast forward to now, 3 years later, an opportunity presented itself when I left Vermont and came back to Rhode Island with my wife and my daughter at the time, to try to coach full time. And I was fortunate enough to have both John Raynone at the North Kingstown Golf Course and Ed Kirby at the Aquidneck Club offer me an opportunity to teach there that first season. And it was great. Obviously the job can be very rewarding, which is great. And then my second season, I strictly worked at North Kingstown. And then this fall, and certainly even through the summer, I had this sort of grandeur idea of putting together an indoor golf studio. Selfishly for me, I'd like to stretch out the golf season. Obviously, being in the Northeast, being outside is not really an option. And then knowing what I have now, I'm blessed to have a TrackMan 4. So the capability of providing instruction indoors, getting quantifiable data is all there. So that kind of led me to, all right, I need a space. What am I going to do? I think most of us know either real estate prices or rental space property is very high right now. So in an unconventional manner, I basically actually just have built the golf studio at my house. So I have as I'm standing here right now, I have about a 440 square foot single bay, which I'm able to, like I said, offer players the opportunity to come in, get a quality instruction based upon some data from TrackMan. There are some putting options as well in here. So again, it's a great environment, positive environment, very structured, controlled, no elements, no weather to deal with. And for me, the opportunity to teach year round is really what I wanted to do. And this obviously captures all of that for all the players that I get an opportunity to see, which is great.
Now let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of golf instruction and the golf swing and a few other things regarding the game, because obviously it's kind of in a fascinating place right now, just with distance and everything going on. But just to go back to you on this, your teaching philosophy, when people come to see you, say it's their, the first time or, whatever, they're early on in their instruction, when they come to see you, what are you saying to them? What are you looking for in them? What's kind of your path? What's kind of your path for them, I guess?
Yeah, I think everyone's a little bit different as far as maybe instructor to instructor. I'm someone that I feel takes a little bit more of a proactive approach. So every person that wants to reach out to me for a first lesson, and I've never seen them play before, I actually send them a very detailed pre-screening questionnaire, a lot of which will outline maybe shorter long-term goals, expectations on what they're looking for, any physical limitations, have they taken instruction at all previously, positive, negatively, what sort of had come out of that. So even before the player actually arrives at the studio, I have a pretty good idea of not only what they want to do, maybe an idea of what their scoring average is and what their expectations are. So for me, that gives me a little bit of a head start, which is great. And then from there, there's obviously a little bit of a kind of Q&A for the first probably 15, 20 minutes about those same topics. And then for the 90 minutes we have together for that first session, we can iron out a game plan. As far as the technical part about it, I think most people know at this particular point, most people swing the golf club very differently, player to player. So, a lot of the stuff that I look for lesson one could be very fundamentally based. How's the player gripping the club? How's he moving the body dynamically? How's he managing the orientation of the face as well as the vertical swing plane? of the shaft. I mean, those are things that I quickly look at, and that usually kind of circumvents, a lot of the compensations and the things they might have previously commented on, whether it's in that pre-screen questionnaire and or sort of in our sort of Q&A. So like I said, it's a nice way for me to get ahead of the game a little bit, get the players' most important goals and expectations for our time together lesson one, and then obviously put a game plan around that for them to succeed, certainly short and long term.
Now, one thing that's interesting is technology. Technology has changed, probably 180 from several years ago. You mentioned a little bit about TrackMan. Obviously, we see pros using all kinds of stuff on the range or on the putting greens or whatever they're doing. When it comes to golf coaching, over the years, how much has technology changed the golf instruction industry? I mean, it's going to be completely, obviously, it's completely different from when, guys were growing up, perhaps yourself or others.
Yeah.
How much has technology changed it? Is it for the better? Is it for the worse? Is it too much technology sometimes?
Yeah, another great question. I certainly think it's for the better. I mean, I wouldn't have the business model I have right now without a launch monitor. So for me, it's no brainer. And a lot of it is, I tell people, I don't want to guess. I don't want to guess with your golf game. So I have a TrackMan. I have a Hack Motion wrist sensor that basically produces quantifiable data. So that data I can extrapolate, I can take a look at and see maybe why these certain patterns are being created shot to shot, and try to find maybe a secondary pattern that's obviously more efficient to improving the quality of strike and obviously the resulting ball pattern. So for me, it's a way to expedite sort of what I'm assuming what is going on, but obviously I want the data to kind of support that. And then for the player, based upon how the coach is probably going to want to filter some of the information, because it can get a little bit of an overload for some people, but I think you have to be, as the coach, somewhat conscious of how much the player can sort of kind of take on each lesson. So there is that little filtering process the coach has to be, maybe have a higher awareness on. You might have a beginner with a lower level golf IQ, where you kind of have to be really kind of conscious of how much information you're providing, or you may have a very accomplished player that can kind of take on a very heavy load task for that lesson time. So at the end of the day, technology is here. It's always going to be here. It's in everyone's life. I think everyone now is very comfortable hitting indoors, utilizing technology. I think that whole, dig it out of the dirt, which is still, useful. People are certainly working their way towards technology, hitting balls indoors, knowing that the data is quantifiable, and the fact that all of a sudden you can start pairing feel versus real. And when people start doing that, the patterns get better, the quality of strike get better, and more importantly, the shot quality gets better. And the end hope is that, again, scores get lower and people get happier and play more golf. I mean, that's why, as a PGA professional, I'm here. I want people to have an enjoyable time, shoot lower scores, and enjoy the game of golf for hopefully many years to come.
Absolutely. A couple more questions, then we'll get you out of here. I'm sure you got lessons to give and people to make better. Just golf coaching in general, golf instruction in general. What, and we just talked about technology, so perhaps that's one of them, but what trends are you seeing in the industry now that you either like, dislike, neutral on? What do you see in golf coaching across the board?
Yeah, I think for a long time, I think a lot of golf coaches kept a lot of their secrets to themselves as far as, how they made their players better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with the advent of social media and how it can drive not only a coaching business, but a marketable business where obviously you can create more clients and more players, there's been a lot more shared information, certainly over the last 5 to 6 years, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, I mean, you name it. There are people posting information and giving away good quality instruction. It may not be beneficial to that particular player, but there is quality information being provided out there on the internet that may be applicable to that player, and they're getting it free of cost. So that, as a consumer, is exceptional, in my opinion. Some of those things, again, the player may not be applicable to them, and it may take them down a bad road, but there is quality information. There are quality instructors out there putting out good information free of cost, and obviously the opportunity for them to grow their business on that type of scale, whether it's face-to-face or now a lot of remote that we're seeing now, sort of post pandemic now, where a lot of people are remote coaching now, more so than ever. That's definitely the trend that I'm seeing the most, as far as content, people outwardly advertising their business. And then a lot of people are now collaborating together. You're seeing it more and more now. The Mike Adams and Terry Rolls of the world. Coaches are kind of combining their sort of power, if you will, and creating a sort of bigger network of, a coaching team, and driving business that way as well on the internet, which is great. And again, they're all providing good quality instruction, and the hope is that their experience with those players that they're providing obviously gives them the right path to, like I said, shoot lower scores and play better.
And you mentioned remote coaching. That's gonna be like, no offense to anybody, but that's gonna be like brutal, especially for you guys. Where golf instruction, I feel like, and from the instructions that I've gotten over the years, and then again, I stink, but whatever. I enjoy playing the game for fun, and but I feel like golf instruction is got to be like hands-on, like physically hands-on a lot of times. I mean, remote coaching, and I've never done it, but remote coaching is gotta be tough. It's gotta be an adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, there's I've been able to do a little bit of it. I think my market, at least right now, is somewhat local, so I do have the opportunity to see I primarily see people face to face. But given the right scenario, I think the coaching style does have to be adjusted. Obviously, the element of trying to rearrange cameras and trying to get a player in a position when you're not there can be a little bit cumbersome. But I think, again, it's an option. I think for many people, if they truly don't have the option of want to fly, but they do have the option of taking a lesson from a qualified instructor, top 100, whatever it might be, that's available now. And maybe that wasn't available 5 years ago. And like I said, I think more PGA professionals, guys and gals are out there teaching daily. It's another option to, again, drive business, create more revenue, which again is, potentially, what they want, depending on what their workload is kind of face to face. So like I said, it just gives the consumer another option. It gives the coach an avenue for more revenue or just more exposure on who they teach. But like I said, it is a different environment. I personally like to see, especially if I've never seen the person play before or hit balls, I kind of like to see them sort of face to face for the first time. And then if there is a remote option, certainly like we saw, 18 months ago or 2 years at this point, I'd be happy. I can, happily do a remote sort of coaching session, knowing what to kind of expect. But like I said, a lot of options, both on the consumer side and obviously in the coaching, coaching branding, sort of marketing of it, which is great.
Now, speaking of branding and marketing, you're obviously very active on social media, at least on Instagram. You were talking about how a lot of the golf instructors will post some tips up there that may not be necessarily great for a certain type of consumer, but they're posting their tips anyway. You've obviously done a little bit of that on Instagram, but just talk about the social media aspects. I think that's interesting. Obviously, for us, GolfNewsRI, we're a news organization. Obviously, we try to be very active on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, and a little bit on Twitter, but I mean, Twitter generally is kind of useless. But anyway, Facebook, Instagram mostly. But just talk about, from your perspective, the social media aspect. How important is it for you to post stuff on social media on a daily basis or weekly basis, whatever it is, and just how important is that to growing your own brand and your business, even though you might be giving away a tip or two, here or there?
Yeah, it's a huge part of my business now. I've been very, now that I've been back in Rhode Island for 3 years, I've been certainly blessed with a lot of basically just either referrals, word of mouth, business. Primarily, that's kind of what I work off of. But in season, IG stories, IG posts, it's created another avenue, like I said, to get players in the door. It really has. I mean, at peak season, I typically get about probably 2 to 3 DMs about, inquiries about lessons, and the conversion rate is pretty high. So, it's a way for me to create some revenue, get some people at the door. Like I said, another way to promote myself as well. I mean, it's free, so there's no cost to me. I'm able to post content. Like you said, whether it's applicable to not to that player is sort of to be seen. But for what it does for me, it creates some interest. Obviously, I mean that's part of what branding and marketing is. It creates interest. People start to know who you are a little bit. Maybe your personality shows up, on some of these stories being posted on like an Instagram, and people either relate with that or they have some interest, and maybe that sparks them to want to get on the lesson tee. So for me, it's a huge part of my business. And again, I'll continue to routinely either it's post daily and or obviously post some stories, which are pretty quick hitters for a lot of people. Just a lot of before and afters, just showing the progression on the lesson tee. I think is again for someone who is a sort of an outlooker, maybe looking or interested in instruction, seeing, all right, this gentleman started this way and he finished this way, and the shot pattern changed this much just with 1 hour's worth of instruction through. Maybe I should go take a lesson. It's kind of a home run, in my opinion, to start, like I said, being more active on that end of the business. So I'll continue to do it, and hopefully, again, I'll have the people coming through the door and DMing me with some interest on getting in the studio for sure.
Absolutely. Last question, then I'll get you out of here.
Yeah.
Obviously, the game of golf right now, a lot going on with it. We have the distance boom. You have Bryson DeChambeau hitting 400-yard drives. You have obviously the technology, as we've talked about. You have all kinds of stuff going on in the game of golf. It's a fascinating time period. They're talking about rolling back equipment and things of that nature. But I'll ask you, just in general, where is the game of golf right now? Obviously, we've had a number of people take up the game of golf over the pandemic because it was one of the only things that you could do. So the golf memberships are at an all-time high. Golf rounds are at an all-time high. So just where do you think the game of golf is right now on a general basis? And maybe if you could touch on it, even just a local basis.
Yeah, it's I think you nailed it on the head. All the topics you said, memberships at private clubs full, junior participation huge. PGA Junior League is the biggest it's ever been. Other initiatives by the PGA Hope, a lot of full subscriptions with people helping veterans play golf. It's kind of hard to say, but the pandemic did a great job in the game of golf, growing the game of golf. I mean, there wasn't many things you could do besides go play golf. So it brought a huge demographic of people that obviously potentially would never play the game of golf into our game. So it's been great. I think the star power of what we have, on the competitive side, PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, the younger guys, the Hovlands, the Mirakawas, and you still have the stalwarts like a Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth. I mean, the game is in a great place, and there's no better time to, like I said, get in the game of golf, in my opinion. There's just so many options out there, whether it's again, whether it's in the instructional world, or just trying to enjoy your time, whether it's with family or friends. I don't think there's any better game to play than the game of golf. If that's kind of the avenue you like. Being outdoors is a huge benefit for a lot of people, and they do want to get outdoors now more than ever. And there's no better feeling than, like I said, playing with family and friends for 4 hours and blowing off some steam from work, maybe with a few colleagues as well. But it's in the best it's ever been since when Tiger first showed up on everyone's doorstep. When he showed up in '97 and won the Masters. And last week when he hit that one golf shot and posted it on the internet, I think everyone got a little more excited for the game of golf for 2022. So the game's in a great place. The hope is that again, organizations like the PGA of America, what you do on a local basis, certainly providing great information, and then just other outlets continue to promote the game of golf, and like I said, just keep moving it forward for sure.
Awesome. Well, that's Drew Anderson. He was named the best golf instructor in Rhode Island by Golf Digest. Just take a second and just plug your stuff. Where can people find you? How can people get in touch with you if they want a lesson?
Pretty easy to find me. You can either reach out to me at drewandersongolf@gmail.com if you'd like to email me, or on my website at drewandersongolf.com, or just my IG handle, drewandersongolf. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy to find. Would love to get you on the lesson tee. I think for many of people, this is a great time if they are interested in making some improvements to their golf swing. to give themselves the opportunity of a couple months before the golf season comes quickly back in March, hopefully for us, to again create a nice game plan, a solid foundation for their golf swing moving into the 2022 season. So I appreciate the time, Joe. Like I said, I appreciate all that you do for the game of golf in Rhode Island. And, like I said, definitely look forward to meeting up, whether it's face-to-face or maybe doing another podcast in the near future.
Absolutely. Drew, thanks so much for coming on. Congrats on the big honor, and good luck over the winter months.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Take care.